Good morning, everybody.
Good morning,
Good
sir.
morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Do you have any question from the previous class? Okay. So
Sir, I have a
then let us
question.
start. Yes. Is there any question?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Tell me.
Sir, what is thresholding in logistic regression?
Okay. So here you see that in logistic regression. So in this context, I mentioned about the thresholding. Okay. Now in here it says that logistic regression is what? Logistic regression estimates the probability of the occurrence of an event based on one or more inputs. The input you can also consider as a probability. Now if the input is a probability and output is also a probability, but you know that probability value varies from 0 to 1.0, right? And that is a say a real number. If that is a real number, then this logistic regression will give you nothing but a probability value lies between 0 to 1.0. That probability perhaps, not perhaps, in most of the cases indicates whether one particular event will occur or not, whether it belongs to a particular category or not, because what you are doing, so you are classifying. So you are checking that whether it belongs to this class or that class. Say for example, if the question is whether given a fruit, whether that fruit is an apple or not. If I say that one, and what you are doing, so using this logistic regression, you are taking all possible probabilities, say as per the color, what is the probability that it will be apple, as per the texture, what is the probability that it will be apple, as per the shape, what is the probability that it will be apple. Taking all those information in your logistic regression model, you predict another threshold value. Sorry, you predict another probability value. So it estimates the probability. Now you can consider, after taking input of all those individual features probability as an input based on one or more input, it is predicting some probability value. Now the probability value will lie from 0 to 1.0. That does not solve your problem, because you ask the question whether it is an apple or not. So yes or no. Clearly, it is a problem of two class classification. One class, yes, it is an apple. Another class, no, it is not an apple. So how do you decide? You are getting, using logistic regression, you are getting just a probability value. Based upon that one, you have to say that yes or no. It is similar to the situation that kind of, if you are familiar with weather forecasting, then you will see on a day-to-day basis, even on hourly basis, it predicts whether there is a possibility of having rain or not. And they just put some probability value in percentage. Say starting from 0% to it will not be 100%, but say more than 90%, I also observed. Only provides the probability. Based upon that one, when you conclude, okay, there may be a rain, so while going out, you take some umbrella. So when you are taking that judgment in your mind, some value is there. Based upon that, you are deciding, okay, it indicates say 70%, there is a chance. It indicates 20%. So there might not be any rain, no need to carry an umbrella. So when you think that if it is 20%, then no need to carry umbrella. When it is say 70%, there may be rain and carry some umbrella. So these decisions, when you are taking, back of your mind, there is some value. Based upon that one, you are deciding whether there will be a rain or not. Similarly, when you are predicting or you are estimating some probability whether the fruit is apple or not, then you have to specify, okay, if it goes beyond some probability, then it is apple, otherwise it is not an apple. So that goes beyond some value. I am calling that as a threshold value. Is that clear now?
Yes, sir. Got it, sir.
Okay, very good. This is regarding the 2 class. Similarly, you can go for 3 classes also if you wish. Okay, or you can go for hierarchical based 3 classes. Like first you decide class 1, class 2, then you decide class 2, class 3, then you decide class 4, class 5. That way also you can go. But when you go, so this is kind of a tree structure. At each internal node, I am drawing the circle. You have to take some decision, and that decision whether to go this way or to go this way depends upon some value at this position. That value is kind of a threshold. If it is less than, go this way. If it is greater than, go this way. Okay, any other question? Okay, now let us start from here itself, since I started discussion here. So I have some classification technique. Let us assume it is logistic regression. And using the logistic regression, you noted that first of all, we will try our best to gather as much data as possible. Okay. Now, at the same time, we will do the pre-processing of the data so that our data is balanced and it's in good condition, so that it can help to learn the model correctly. Still, you agree with me, there is a chance factor. It might give very good result, might not give very good result. It is not only the data on which the prediction accuracy involves, it is also the model I am considering. Now you see that there are a lot of models, although we didn't discuss the algorithm of it. And right now I believe that it is kind of a black box to you, fine. But if I say that logistic regression is one, say random forest is another one, then say decision tree is another one. So you will also agree with me that their approaches will be different since they are different algorithms. So there is a high possibility that for a new data, so the accuracy of logistic regression in some cases will be good. The accuracy of random forest in some cases will be good. The accuracy of the decision tree in some cases will be good. But overall, if I rely on any one of them, then they might not act good. If that kind of situation happens, then you may think, okay, if there is something or there is somebody who can tell me, so since you are using say this kind of data, so you please use logistic regression. If the data changes, means if it is predicting whether it's an apple or not, so you use logistic regression. But if it is say mango, then better you use regression model. If it is say banana, then decision tree might work. So how to deal with that one? To address all those issues, there is another algorithm or technique, and that is called as the ensemble methods. This ensemble methods is gaining momentum nowadays because of its application, that you understand that say I do not know, although I mentioned that for apple you use logistic regression, for mango you use say random forest, you for banana you use decision tree. So 3 different algorithms I mentioned. Now I am telling you that you use logistic regression, you use random forest, you use decision tree. But in a automated system, when you develop one model, then who is I? Who is going to tell you that which one to choose? Because you designed one model, you make it available, and it is supposed to predict all the fruits. Now, when the input will be apple, when the input will be say banana, when the input will be mango, or when the input will be orange, how do I know? But I said that if I know that one, then accordingly I can choose the correct machine learning technique. But if I know that whether it is apple, banana, or orange or mango, then my prediction is done. That's why ensemble methods combine several predictive models from supervised machine learning to achieve improved predictions compared to individual models. That is a very good approach, and you understand that now you gave the responsibility of selecting which supervised machine learning algorithm will be picked based upon the data, not the inference, not based upon whether it's apple, mango, banana, or orange, but based upon the data I am grabbing from that fruit. So if I go by that one, then ensemble method says that I will have several such supervised machine learning techniques under my umbrella, and by looking at the data I will decide which one to pick. And that way, if I decide, and if the decision on selecting the correct supervised machine learning algorithm is correct, then I will get the highest accuracy by combining all those information. Right? Say here I am writing, say logistic regression. In some cases, or its highest accuracy, let us assume, is 80%. Okay. Now let us assume random forest, RF. I know its highest accuracy is say 91%. Let us assume decision tree. I know its highest accuracy is say 70%. Now these accuracies, if I look at the data, then I will find that the highest accuracy which is achieved by logistic regression on the data set is not same as the highest accuracy which is achieved as 91% for random forest, is not the same for decision tree. For some data set in my pool, okay, for some data set, say LR is doing good. For some data set, say random forest is doing good. And for some data set, intentionally I did one overlapping of decision tree and random forest, that you can see. Okay, so for some data set, decision is doing good. Now you see, if this is the situation, And there is one ensemble method which combines LR, RF and DT. Then the individual's highest accuracy in prediction will be contributed. And if it is so, then say 80% will be contributed from here. Then so highest accuracy from here, then from here, and that will cover a huge amount of data. So if you look at the overall accuracy, then overall accuracy must be greater than highest accuracy among these three, that is must be 91% cases, and that is the advantage of the ensemble method. Is this point clear to you? If there is any question, please let me know.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Yes.
Sir, actually, I have a doubt that why in ensemble method we are only accumulating or combining the supervised ML methods only.
Okay, that is a very good question, because as of now the research and the work people have done, they are able to develop the algorithms only for the supervised machine learning algorithm where the data is labeled. But if the data is unlabeled, then inferring from there is bit tricky, because if you remember correctly that what are the unsupervised learning techniques, among them is clustering is one. I gave you the example that say you are in an island and a number of different stones are given to you. You are supposed to cluster them. You do not know the name of any of the stones, but by looking at the feature, you are clustering them, right? The way you did the clustering. Now let us assume that along with that one, some other friend will come. So I am considering one, say, unsupervised machine learning technique. Another of your friend has come, and your friend is also unsupervised learning, using unsupervised learning method. And in that unsupervised learning method, he also do not know the level. Now he is looking at the data from his perspective or her perspective, and then doing the clustering. Right. Now the way it might be possible, since the data is not labeled, say you consider the color as a strong feature and you clustered based upon that one. Your friend might be considering that light reflecting power of the stones is most intriguing feature, and based upon that he is clustering. So whatever clustering you have done, your friend is doing something different. That way it might be possible that your clustering information is not good enough. On the other hand, if the stones are labeled, say this is limestone, say this is diamond, this is sapphire, so that way if they are labeled, then when you are clustering that one, after doing the clustering, you have that information, okay, my clusters are correct or not, because label is there. And when your friend is doing further partition within a particular level, then he is getting one error message, right? So it is all about when you are learning. So you should remember one thing. I mentioned that in steps or iterations you are learning, and when you are learning, after the learning you are checking whether my learning is correct or not based upon some known data set. Now on the known data set, if you see that error is very high or huge, then your learning is not good enough. So you discard that one or change something inside that one. Okay. So that is my point.
Yes, sir.
Did you able to get it now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Sir, I have one
Any
question.
other?
Yeah.
Sure.
Sir, that means suppose this logistic regression, random forest, and decision tree, these three methods are means separate things. Now means when the ensemble method combines them, so means how it can combine the different things to make a one model.
That is a good question. For that, we need to discuss some algorithm from ensemble method. Okay.
Okay.
So currently we are not doing that one. Please hold that one. I am just giving the name of some of the algorithms, and it is the kind of introduction class. But you should remember that that is a very good question, and it makes sure definitely. Otherwise, there is no use of this ensemble method, right?
Yes.
Okay. Any other question?
Sir, one other question.
Hmm.
Sir, how can the total accuracy reach above 91%? Because like for decision tree, it's like 70%. For the logistic regression, it's 80%. So like the accuracy for these individual methods are much lesser. So like how can it push past the 91% mark?
Okay, that is a good question. So let me give you greater than equals to. You are right. Okay. Now, what it will do, first of all, you see that when you are thinking it will not go past the 91%, then you are considering that what is the best prediction among them, you are considering that one. Right? Now,
Yes,
if
sir.
it will not go past the 91%, then why shall I go for some ensemble method? I will not use this, I will not use this, I will just use random forest. That is enough, isn't it? What
Yes.
if one simple thing I am just proposing or suggesting, what if this logistic regression is giving you some probability value? Okay, so let us assume that P1, random forest is giving you another probability value P2. All these prediction, all these probability values are the probability of the estimation that I am assuming, and this is giving you P3. Now my question is that by combining this P1, P2 and P3, is it possible to have one more algorithm which will give an estimate, and based upon that estimate I can achieve more than 91%? Yes, that ensemble methods actually does that kind of thing. There are several examples, so I'm not sure whether I will encounter that one or not, one example, but when we worked, then we have checked that there was one technique. So we developed one machine learning based technique, and there exist another deep learning based techniques. Now, in the machine learning based techniques, we computed the features, we created the feature vector and give that as an input to the machine learning technique, so that it provides some estimate. Based upon that one, we see accuracy is something. Okay, so let us assume that accuracy is say 90%. Based upon the feature that I have considered, this is my accuracy. Now this deep learning method individually is performing, whose accuracy is 88%. You look at this right hand side Venn diagram kind of thing. Some cases where 90% accuracy is there, say RM method 91% is here, and LR logistic regression is here. Right? Now, if I consider the estimation of the deep learning technique as one feature and give that as an input to machine learning technique, then you see that the machine learning technique is enriched by one feature. Do you understand up to this?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Think that incorporating one more feature which actually gives you 88% accuracy, and that is not in the subset of this 90%, will give you further accuracy? You are right. If this LR is the subset of RF and DT is also subset of RF, then I perhaps cannot go beyond 91%. But if they are not completely same or they are not subset, then definitely it is adding some extra feature based upon that one you are predicting.
Yes, sir. Sir, so
Can
basically,
I give you another example?
sir,
So you are writing an exam, right?
yes,
You
sir.
got 90 marks out of 100. Your friend is writing the exam. He got say 88 marks in the exam. You got a scope of copying from your student, from your friend. How much marks do you get? If I assume all the answers you have done, your friend has done only those answers, then after copying also you will get 90%. But if I assume that your friend answer correctly from some of the 10 marks that you missed, then definitely your score will be more than 90%, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That extra information or extra feature is adding, and that is the reason why it goes past the highest accuracy of their individual models. And that is the whole purpose of the ensemble methods. Any
Yes,
question?
sir. Understood, sir.
Okay. Thank you. So going to the next, I make it very clumsy. Please bear with me. I am coming out of it. And then I'm going in again. It reduces the variance and bias of a single machine learning method. That is what I explained for the last 5 or 10 minutes. It reduces the variance and bias of a single machine learning model. A given model may be accurate under certain conditions, but inaccurate under other conditions. The point I mentioned that it is not a perfect subset. Okay. By combining multiple models, the quality of the prediction is balanced out. If it is not balanced out, definitely nobody is interested in that and remove that or discard that. Only if it gives me more accuracy, then only I'll be interested about it. Okay. So few examples. Random forest algorithms is an ensemble method that combines many decision trees trained with different samples of the datasets. But that does not restrict you to design another ensemble method where any other ensemble method or this random forest will act as a method. Okay. The prediction quality of an RF is superior than the prediction quality of a single decision tree. Now, regarding this decision tree, you may consider that there are several features. Let us assume one decision is constructed based upon one feature, second one is constructed based upon second feature. That way, if I have a number of decision trees, then combining them with a very good algorithm definitely will improve their individual performance. And that is the whole purpose of the ensemble methods. Other popular ensemble algorithms, so random forest was there, it is extensively being used. Currently, this XGBoost and LightGBM is getting momentum. So people are working with XGBoost and LightGBM, and they find it very useful for their own purpose. So the last slide on this, yes.
Sir, what is mean by reducing variance?
Reducing variance means, first of all, do you remember the definition of the variance from your statistics or mathematics class?
Yes, a little bit.
Yeah, so using that little bit information, I am extending that when you are predicting that, predicting something, then you have an original value and you are predicting some value. So you are taking the difference of that one and then you are doing the squaring of that one. Okay, so like that way, if there are n number of features, if you take the error square, add them up, and you will get the variance. And if you divide that by the number of features and square it up, then you will get the standard deviation. So variance is the square of the standard deviation. So variance indicates that how much are you deviating from the original prediction. And bias indicates that because of the data set, if there is a huge bias, so again, for example, that if in my fruit basket there are say 100 apples and 2 or 3 mangoes, then there will be a tendency that I will learn almost everything regarding the apple, but very less or very few regarding the mangoes. That is the bias. Okay, and when I am predicting, then my prediction, how much it differs from the original data, based upon that one, I compute the variance. Okay. No need to introduce you neural network and deep learning. You heard a lot about that one. Neural network, in short, it is called as the NN. It is called as the NN, and deep learning, it is called as the DL. So the objective of neural networks is to capture nonlinear patterns in data by adding layers of parameters to the model. Component, input layer, hidden layers, output layers. The structure of NN is flexible so that you can build most of the linear and logistic regression. The term deep learning comes from a neural net with many hidden layers and encapsulates a wide variety of architectures. So I have gone through this slide quickly because by reading this one, you will not get the feel. If I show you one neural network, then you can able to see this. So it is called as a reverse pass or back propagation. It is also a neural network. So first of all, there are 3 layers grossly. This is called as the input layer. This is called as the output layer. And what is in between this input and output layer is considered as the hidden layers. Why the name hidden? I will come to that. Okay. Now, neural network, what it tries to do, you are given with some input. Okay. Let us assume your input is what? Your input is say one photo, right? So one photograph is given to you, passport size photograph, and you wish to classify face or not, whether the photograph consists of one human face or not. So simple 2 classes are there. I am doing this using neural network. Then what I need to do? First, one photograph is given to you, and there may be not only one photograph, there may be several photographs. And as many photographs will be there, your prediction will be good. So when it is photograph, then you know that photograph or image is nothing but a two-dimensional matrix. Okay, so two-dimensional matrix, if you give as an input, so how many two-dimensional matrix? One two-dimensional matrix will be given here, another will be given here. So like this way, although I said only two nodes indicating two matrix, but it can be extended for as many photographs you have for so many cases. That is my input. And here I am learning that. How I am learning that input? I do not know anything about it. That's why what I did, so corresponding to each photograph, I created one node first. So just only one node. This is one photograph. This is another photograph. Like that way, if I have say 1000 photographs, I created 1000 nodes. That is my input layer. It is easy to do. Any question here?
No,
So
sir.
each photograph I am considering as one input node. So anybody asked anything? Is there anybody? Okay. Now what will be the output? Output will be face or not. Okay. So when I say that 1000 photos, so 1000 photos are not different photographs. They are the same photographs but with different matrix value. Here I would like to mention that you remember that I mentioned that if it is a color image, then there are three matrices. One consists of red intensity values, another green intensity values, another blue intensity values. In short, they are called as the RGB. Now, along with that one, if you have few more information regarding this matrix, say for example, I have some age information. Inside this, I computed. So there are some machine learning technique, and using that technique, I computed that these are the ages. So these red lines inside the rectangle consist of intensity value 1, rest are zeros. So corresponding to one such image or photograph, I am having, say, this is my blue, this is my green, a third node will be for my red, for if I computed that age, then that will be my fourth one. So that way, several information I am giving as an input. Okay. And in the output, it is either the face of the human face or it is not. Right. If it is a human face or not, then inside what I am doing, I am considering only one layer. And if I assume that, okay, there are only two inputs for the time being, say this rho and this lambda, omega and lambda, then A, B, C are three nodes. Now you look at the edges. So all the input nodes are connected with the nodes at the hidden layer. Three connections. This one is also with three connections. Right? Again, all the hidden nodes are connected with the output layer. So each will get 2 because there are 2 outputs. Right? Now it's a simple thing. So if I say a phase means the probability value say greater than 0.5, okay, greater than 0.5, and not means less than 0.5. So you have to come up with some equation which will convert this input to this value. For that, you see that each edge has some weight value W lambda A, W omega B, W lambda B, W lambda C, and then this is with the WC alpha, WB alpha, WA alpha, right? Now, when I will train my network here, then I know that whether train means the data set is known. So if I train this network, then what I will do that I know that this is my phase. So I will give this value 1 and this value 0 if it is true. If it is not true, negative case, negative example, then it will be 0, it will be 1. During the training process, I know the input as well as the output. Now, if I have written one equation, linear equation, so this is my feature and say multiplied with W this omega A, and then I will get A, then along with this A, which consists of this omega WA, then omega lambda A, by combining this, I will get A. So along with this A, when I will combine A alpha, A beta, then I will have finally in alpha, so WA alpha, WB alpha, and WC alpha, and WC alpha. So I will get 2 sets of equation, one corresponding to this input to hidden layer, another corresponding to this hidden layer to output layer. For this set of equations, input to hidden layer, input is known, so I can compute A. For this set of equations, I know the output because I am doing the training. So I know what is phase and what is not. So I know the output. Now based upon this, what will be the value of this WA alpha so that I will get output 1? That is what I need to estimate. Once I will estimate that one, then all these W weight values are known to me, and bingo. So I can then take one image, I can apply these weight values on that one in order to compute what is the value for alpha, what is the value for beta. Based upon that one, I can conclude whether it's a human face or not. Okay. Now, the variation will take place in the number of input layers based upon the how many number of features you are inputting. The variation will take place in terms of the number of nodes in a hidden layer and how many hidden layers are there. Usually for the deep learning techniques, the number of hidden layers are very high in nature. Okay. If you can able to understand this one and can able to do this one, then you can implement any neural network backpropagation algorithm. And the concept will be clear to you for the deep learning technique also. So if time permits, we will come back and we will take one example and do this neural network technique. For the time being, just for the introduction, I think this is enough. Okay. Now we are in a position to analyze. Yes.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
Here, sir, we can know the value of alpha and beta, that if it is a phase, it is 1, or not, it is 0.
Right.
But means, how can we know the values of the nodes A, B, and C?
So for A, B, and C, initially you do not know that one. So that is what you need to learn.
Okay,
So
means
first, you know, look, you have one equation. That equation will map the input value to A. Okay, with that A, if you compute the value of alpha, then you compare that you will get definitely one value of alpha, and that value may be something, it may be 1, less than 1, more than 1. If
yes.
it is not 1, then the difference will tell you that it's an error. If it is an error, then you assume some weight value, and based upon that one you computed. So you have to go back, you have to change the weight value. So that is the iteration and fixing that weight values. You have to do this in multiple steps until you will find one good predicted value, so that the difference of actual alpha and the predicted value is not much.
Okay.
So we discussed about some of the machine learning techniques. It is introductory discussion. That's why we didn't go into details of that algorithm. So when we will discuss some problem, then the corresponding algorithm we will discuss. Next comes that, well, we have done the prediction. How do I analyze, or what will be the measure to analyze that my prediction is good or bad or correct, etc. For that, you have to know first the confusion matrix. It's a 2x2 matrix, assuming that you are predicting yes or no, true or false, positive or negative. The matrix is 2x2. If you go for more than that, then definitely it will change. But I believe mostly we can cover within this one. So here it indicates actual values. Actual value means, if I take the example of apple and mango, it is apple or not. So positive indicates it is apple, negative indicates no, it is not apple. And predicted value is, you developed one machine learning technique, or you used some machine learning technique on your data set, and you predicted whether it is apple, positive means yes, or no. So positive prediction means you are predicting it apple, and actual value apple means that it is actually value. That way, TP indicates the true positive. True positive means that the predicted value matches the actual value. The actual value was positive and the model predicted a positive value. In two cases, actual value will be matching with the predicted value. When I say that it is apple and actually it is apple, that is called as the true positive case. In another case, I am telling no, it is not apple and actually it is not apple. That is called as the true negative. Okay. So these two terms, true positive and true negative, indicates that my prediction is correct. Otherwise, it is wrong. Now, as you understand that wrong can be in two ways. I am predicting, yes, it is actually apple, but actually it is not apple. That is called as the false positive. I am predicting, no, it is not apple, but actually it is apple. That is false negative. Okay. So false positive is called as the type 1 error. The predicted value was falsely predicted. The actual value was negative, but the model predicted a positive value. That's why the name is false positive. Okay. False negative is called as the type 2 error. The predicted value was falsely predicted. Actual value was positive, but the model predicted a negative value. Right? Again, there are apples and mangoes. Now the question is it an apple? You developed one machine learning model based upon your data. you developed one model. The model is taking input a fruit and predicting whether it's an apple or not. Just this one. So if it is apple, then it says positive, that is my prediction. If it is not apple, then it is telling negative, that is my prediction. But actually whether it is a positive or negative, that is also known. That is also known because you are testing your model. So that's why that is also known. Okay. Now, if I predict it is apple and indeed it is an apple, that is called as the true positive case. If I predict it is not an apple and actually it is not an apple, then that is called as the true negative case. If I predict it is an apple but actually it is not, then that is false positive or type 1 error. If I predict no, it is not an apple but actually it is an apple, that is called as the false negative or type 2 error. Now you can understand all my predictions I can put in one of the 4 cells. Okay. If I put them with some value, say true for one hypothetical prediction technique, true positive is 456, false positive is 90, false negative is 78, true negative is 123. Let us assume in one hypothetical prediction it has come. Then true positive is for 456, remaining 456 positive class data points were correctly classified by the model. 123 negative class data points were correctly classified by the model. 90 negative data set, prediction says it is correct, actually it is not, and 78 cases prediction says it is not correct, actually it is correct. Okay. Now the accuracy I am defining from here as what? The correct predictions. This one I am telling it is apple and actually it is apple, and this one I am telling it is not an apple and actually it is not an apple. So TP plus TN normalized by or divided by the total number of instances that I predicted, that is TP plus AP plus FN plus TN. That is the definition of the accuracy, and it says also TP plus TN correctly predicted one. When I say correctly predicted, it doesn't mean correctly predicted as apple. It means correctly predicted whether it is an apple. Yes, it is apple. It is not an apple. No, it is not an apple. So that's why TP plus TN divided by the total number, and over this data set, the accuracy is 77.51%. Okay. What might go wrong with this?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, can you please repeat this accuracy part once again?
Which part? Accuracy.
Accuracy, yes, sir.
Yeah. Accuracy says that out of the total cases, in how many cases I am predicting it correctly. Okay. In how many cases I am predicting it correctly. So how many correct predictions are there? When I say it is an apple and indeed it is an apple, true positive. When I say no, it is not an apple and actually it is not an apple, that is true negative. That is my correct predictions. That's why TP plus TN divided by the total number of predictions. That is my accuracy. Okay. Now what might be wrong with this one? Let us take one example, predicting protein phosphorylation sites. For this particular problem, little bit of the biology, a protein consists of 20 amino acids. We are considering 20 here. Phosphorylation is one of the most important post-translation modification process in protein, where a phosphate is attached with an amino acid. My job is, given a protein sequence which can be of any length, I have to predict how many such protein phosphorylation binding sites are there. So given a protein sequence, name of the amino acids and their order of occurrence, predict the phosphorylation binding sites. fact is that usually if the length of the protein is 1200, then the phosphorylation binding site will be hardly 20. 20 is also overestimate. It can be 10 also, okay, in some cases. So you see that number of cases are very less, only 20. And the length is 1200. Now, let us assume one instance where this 1200 protein length and phosphorylation binding site 20 I know. In 10 cases, I predicted that this is indeed binding site and it is correct binding site. In 10 other cases, I said it is it is not binding site, but actually it is binding site. So this TP plus FP is 10 plus 10, that is 20, is here. For 10 other cases, I predicted yes, it is binding phosphorylation binding site, but actually it is not phosphorylation binding site. For the remaining, since the length is 1200, 1170 cases for 1170 amino acids, I predicted it is not phosphorylation binding site, and indeed it is not phosphorylation binding site. Okay. Now, if I compute the accuracy, then what was the definition of the accuracy? Correctly predicted cases, true positive plus true negative. This is 10, which is phosphorylation binding site, I predicted correctly. This is 1170, which is not phosphorylation binding site, and I mentioned yes, it is not phosphorylation binding site. Whole divided by total length, that is 1200. So in total, sorry, there is a typo. Actually, it will be 1180. That's why I think this will also be increased a little bit. So 1180, that is correctly predicted case, divided by 1200. So you see that about 98% is my accuracy. You will feel good. My accuracy is almost 100%. It is near about perfect. But you look at the application of the biology. Actually, there are 20 phosphorylation binding sites. I am interested to know those 20. Out of those 20, I got only 10 correctly. I am not interested to know that who is not the phosphorylation binding site. Isn't it? It is the similar situation that a fruit basket is given to you, consists of apple and some fruits which is not nutritious, and you are not supposed to eat that one. Now I correctly said that okay, out of say 20 apples, 10 apples are correct. I mentioned that one. So you can distribute 10 apples among 10 students. But if actually there are 100 students and 100 apples are there, then it is no use if I do not able to classify it correctly. The same thing is here. So out of 20 phosphorylation binding sites, I predicted only 10, so half correctly. But I could not say that accuracy is 50%, because accuracy means true positive plus true negative divided by 1200. Okay. This indicates that when the data set is not balanced, because only 20 positive cases phosphorylation binding sites and 1180 negative cases not phosphorylation binding site. When the data set is not balanced, then accuracy may not be the only criteria or a very good criteria to be act as a measure. So we have to go for something else also. That we will continue in the next class. So up to this, do you have any question?
No, sir.
Okay. So if you do not have any question, then thank you. The next Wednesday, 18th, there is a class suspension because of the Institute Foundation Day. 19th is a holiday Mohoram. So our next class will be on 20th, next Friday. Okay, at the same time. Thank you very much.
Okay, sir.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir.